kindly for joining us. Our studio is in downtown Charlottesville in the Macklin building. Our audience is Charlottesville-wide, Albemarle County, Central Virginia, Commonwealth country, and worldwide. 36 hours from Thanksgiving. We're excited for the holidays, a time to count our blessings, undoubtedly. Today's show is presented by Scott Wagner Integrated Medicine. Dr. Wagner at Scott Wagner Integrated Medicine has your back. The team at Dr. Wagner and Scott Wagner Integrated Medicine have changed people's lives. I have seen it firsthand. You, the viewer and listener, can join us and participate and shape the discussion of today's show. You do that by putting your comments in the comment section anywhere you're watching the show upon. We air across every social media platform known to mankind. Put the comments in there, send me a DM, a text, an email, whatever it may be, and your thoughts will help determine the outcome of each of the shows we do here on the I Love CVille Network. If you look at the screen now, you'll see some of the talking points I'd like to cover today that I think are important. However, we're malleable and adaptable. So if you'd like to offer some perspective or different talking points, just put it in the feed, and you literally will help determine the course of action of what we do today for the next hour. I'll give you a snapshot of what we will cover today. We will talk University of Virginia and Virginia Tech, the Commonwealth Cup, a game that was scheduled for Saturday that has now been canceled. I'm going to ask this question: was this the right move to cancel the Commonwealth Cup? A big-time football game that captivates much of the Commonwealth. I'll give you reasons why I think this was or was not the right move today. We'll also talk Sally Hudson challenging Creigh deeds in the Virginia State Senate and how that news from yesterday may impact the political dominoes in the Commonwealth and in Central Virginia. The political dominoes involve Sally's current seat in the House of Delegates. The political dominoes may involve a Charlottesville City Councilor, a former Charlottesville Mayor, and another former Charlottesville City Councilor. We'll talk a home in Belmont. The address, how would you think I say that word? Rougemont? Rougemont? Okay. 515 Rougemont Avenue. It's in Belmont. It's got an asking price of $299,900. So basically $300,000. 515 Rougemont Avenue. I'm going to show you photos from this house that is on the market for less than a day. The home is being sold as is. I'm going to spotlight a home that's being sold as is in a very Tony neighborhood, Belmont, that's walkable to everything, but a home undoubtedly that is going to need hundreds of thousands of dollars in repair, if not a tear down. We'll talk about that today on the program. Judah Wickhauer is our director. James Watson, hello. Carol Thorpe, hello, and welcome to the show. We love when you guys watch the program. Campos G. Elena, welcome to the program, and thank you kindly for joining us. And Bon Romer, watching the show as we speak. You got a two-shot ready to jump in when we need to? Okay. I'm going to talk about the cancellation of the game first, and then we'll weave you in on the two-shot. If you don't find the official funeral date and time, I understand. It could be still to be determined. Okay. First, we'll get to the news. University of Virginia, Virginia Tech football game scheduled for this Saturday has been canceled. Commonwealth Cup, two arch rivals, a contest that captivates the Commonwealth of Virginia like no other sporting event does. Undoubtedly, men's basketball at UVA and Virginia Tech has uptick in intensity and competitiveness and momentum and fan interest. Still, football is king in the Commonwealth, and when UVA and the Hokies go toe-to-toe, the entire state watches. We now know that this ball game has been canceled. I'm going to ask this question. Viewers and listeners of this fine and fair talk show, was the canceling of this football game the right move in your opinion? I'm going to ask you, Judah Wickhauer, our director. Was the canceling of this football game the right move in your opinion? I'm going to give my take now, have the two-shot and the mic ready to go so you can weave in shortly, J-Dubs. I think absolutely this was the smart move. canceling this football game was absolutely the smart move. Football players, like athletes from many different sports, they want to play the game. They want to play for their team, the logo on their chest, their families, their universities, and in this particular circumstance, they absolutely would want to play for their teammates who were murdered in a mass shooting 2 Sundays ago. It's up to administrators, coaches, athletic directors to help navigate this uncertain, unprecedented circumstance. The athletes, they wanted to play. We know that. But just like an athlete who is injured, who wants to get back in the ball game, a coach, a team official, a doctor, someone who is not wearing the pads determines whether or not that injured athlete can return to the contest or not, because that injured athlete may or may not be thinking clearly at the time. And the doctor, the coaches, the athletic directors, the administrators, the team officials, they help that injured athlete determine what is the best course of action to prevent long-term potential injury. Now, it's not an exact comparison, injury versus what's happened with these mass murderers, but there's some elements of similarity. The coaching staff, the administrators, the athletic directors, the trusted advisors, if you may, see a group of football players that are vulnerable, that are hurting, that are emotional, that are angry, scared, loyal, that want to play a sport they've grown up doing for most of their life. But the reality of the scenario, these athletes have missed UVA considerable practice time. They certainly are at a point from an emotional standpoint, a mentality standpoint, a headspace standpoint, that they likely have never been in their lives. And to ask them a few, 48 hours after Thanksgiving, 1 week removed from an emotional memorial service at the John Paul Jones Arena, without practicing, preparing, rehearsing, to travel a few hours to Blacksburg to play an arch rival in a hostile environment would be a recipe for disaster. What positive could be gained by playing the Commonwealth Cup? I ask you that question sincerely. I'll ask you that question, Judah, here in a matter of moments. What positive was gained or could be gained by playing this contest? In my eyes, very little. Here's what potentially could have been gained. Potentially could have been gained by playing this ball game. Maybe you give student athletes who have one last game of eligibility left a chance to show some athletic prowess on the gridiron, some skill set, for the hope of maybe playing professionally on Sundays in the National Football League. Outside of that, I don't see anything else that could have been gained by playing this game. You have another chance, 4 quarters, to show talent, to impress scouts potentially. But besides that, what could have been gained? UVA was not practicing. They were not preparing for the Hokies. The team is not a very good ball club right now, we know it. Their headspace is not focused on a playbook or X's and O's right now, and how could it be? If UVA had gone on Saturday to Lane Stadium and gotten shellacked by the Hokies, which very well could have happened, look at the season so far for evidence, that shellacking would have compounded in a very emotional and vulnerable and unprecedented manner. And think about from the Virginia Tech side of things. Could you, if you were a Virginia Tech Hokie fan at Lane Stadium, would you have booed UVA football? Would there have been a home field advantage? And if you were booing UVA football on Saturday, if this game was played, would you be perceived by other fans in Lane Stadium as being a jerk? Because you're booing a football team that literally went through, less than 2 weeks ago, a mass murder scenario? If you were the Virginia Tech coaching staff and you had a chance to score touchdowns and separate yourself on the scoreboard, would you be seen as a poor sport for scoring touchdowns and running up the score? The fans in the stadium would have been in an unprecedented situation. The players in the stadium on both sides would have been in an unprecedented situation. The best possible outcome of a UVA Virginia Tech game on Saturday in Lane Stadium, if it was played, was maybe a tie ball game, and that really puts things in perspective with that statement alone. I think the coaching staff, I think the athletic director, and I think President Ryan's staff and administration made a very smart decision canceling this contest. Now the team and the staff and their families can focus on healing, grieving, and honoring their fallen teammates. Let's weave Judah Wickower into the mix on a two-shot. He's the director of this fine and fair talk show. Judah Wickower, known across much of this country as J-Dubs. Surprised, not surprised, disappointed, pleased, angry. What are you feeling with the cancellation of this UVA Virginia Tech game?
Maybe there are some of them that we would like to go out there on the field, but you're right, there's nothing to gain by it. There's nothing that anybody on the team has proved, and I can't imagine they're in a good headspace or that they're prepared for this.
Albert Graves II, nicknamed Warrior AG, says, as a Hokie, it is hard to want to beat up your little brother when all you want to do is give them hugs. And he says, hashtag Hokies for Who's. Alan Paulson, hello, welcome to the program. Maggie Gunnels, welcome to the show. Kevin Higgins says he can't hear you. Is your mic on? All right, his mic was not on. Is your mic on now, Judah?
It is.
Is it on now?
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to reiterate? Carol Thorpe says she can't hear you at all. You want to reiterate what you just said now that your mic is on?
Yeah. I mean, it's the right move. I'm sure the players aren't prepared for this matchup, and I doubt they're in the right headspace, and I can't imagine anybody would expect them to go out there, and they certainly have nothing to prove. Should be a time. I would imagine that the players need more time.
I can't imagine the conversation with Tony Elliott and his coaching staff when he told the players face to face that this game was going to be canceled and not played. I would imagine that was an extremely difficult conversation for Tony Elliott to have with his players, especially since the memorial at the John Paul Jones Arena was Saturday afternoon. So we're talking 48 hours and change later after the memorial. Tony Elliott has to tell his staff and his student athletes that they're not going to have a chance to honor their fallen teammates on the gridiron, which we know most, if not all, the players wanted to do. That is probably one of the most difficult conversations. In fact, Tony Elliott probably has had very difficult conversations with his team, conversations that no coach wants to have. I think the canceling this game now prioritizes the grieving period, the healing period, and allows the players an opportunity to attend funerals in many different states for the 3 men who were murdered.
Yeah.
University of Virginia, you did this part of this crisis right. University of Virginia made a lot of mistakes throughout this crisis, and it's easy to play Monday morning quarterback and look with the benefit of hindsight of the mistakes they made, and I've covered them on this show. But canceling this ball game was the right move. All right, let's go back to the one shot, and then we'll weave you in the mix on these topics. Political dominoes are currently being played right now. And those political dominoes were spearheaded by Sally Hudson. Sally Hudson's been on this talk show a number of times. Sally Hudson, the Virginia delegate, her first campaign office was in the Macklin building, an office she rented from me, an office I owned on the second floor of this building. Sally Hudson is certainly a rising star in the Virginia Democratic Party. Someone tag Sally Hudson. Someone let Sally Hudson know. We're chattering about her and her career. She's now going to challenge Creigh Deeds. I alluded to this months ago on this talk show. Virginia's legislative maps have been redrawn, and because of this redistricting, there is now opportunity in districts that otherwise would not exist. Creigh Deeds is an institution, as Sally Hudson called him in her press release. He is as much a Virginia politician as any you can find. But in the newly drawn District 11, Creigh Deeds looks a bit more vulnerable than he has in the past. And because of that vulnerability, Sally Hudson sees opportunity. She announced yesterday that she's going to challenge Senator Creigh Deeds, and now the political dominoes are starting to fall because of that announcement. I'll get to that in moments. Here's what I think you're going to see happen in this race. I think you will see Sonia Smith, the campaign contributor of epic proportions. Sonia Smith funded Nakia Walker's campaign for Charlottesville City Council. Sonia Smith helped fund Sally Hudson's campaign for delegate. Sonia Smith is one of the most influential Virginia political contributors maybe ever. One of them. I'm not saying she is the one, but certainly on a very short list, Sonia Smith in Virginia history influences Virginia politics more than just about anybody does. I would expect Sonia Smith, and I know she's met with Delegate Sally Hudson already, to write a check of sizable proportions, a deep six-figure check to Sally Hudson to fund this push to unseat Creigh Deeds. This is going to be public record. Remember that I said this on Tuesday, November 22nd, 2022. Sonia Smith will fund Sally Hudson's campaign at a sizable proportion, deep six figures. I would not be surprised if this contribution exceeds $200,000. Creigh Deeds and Sally Hudson are both welcome on this talk show. You understand the reach and influence this talk show has. I think this primary, because whoever wins the Democratic primary is going to win the race, is going to be a dogfight. You have a rising star versus an institution in a newly drawn district that is searching for its identity, but certainly leans blue, heavily blue. Now let's talk about the political dominoes. What are the political dominoes of this? Well, Sally's seat now becomes open next year. And when Sally's seat in the House of Delegates opens, you're going to have a number of people interested in running for this seat. I touched base with Dave Norris, friend of this talk show, this morning. And Dave Norris, and I published this on the I Love CVille Network earlier today, had this to say, and I'll quote it and read it verbatim. Jerry, I'm on vacation with my daughter in Ireland this week, but I will definitely be giving Sally's seat some thought when I return to town. It's an intriguing possibility. Sally has big shoes to fill. I am very interested in this seat. That's Dave Norris, the former mayor of Charlottesville, Virginia, a friend of this talk show, a man who undoubtedly has a following and a brand in local politics. I would not be surprised if Dave Norris runs for Sally's seat in the House of Delegates. Dave Norris was first elected to Charlottesville City Council in 2006, and then 4 years later, two-term counselor, also was a mayor of Charlottesville, Virginia. He's got ties to numerous nonprofits in the area, Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Central Blue Ridge, Patcham, Madison House, Public Housing Association of Residents, FAR, Charlottesville Redevelopment and Housing Authority Board. He knows how the game is played, Dave Norris. Now I'm going to ask you this question. Who else could be interested in Sally's seat? I think Dave Norris certainly will give it significant thought, if not run. I think, if I'm reading the tea leaves correctly, Michael Payne is very much thinking about running for Sally Hudson's soon-to-be vacant seat in the House of Delegates. Michael Payne is a Charlottesville City Councilor. Michael Payne is very young. See if you can find Michael Payne's age, Judah, if you could. I would bet you Michael Payne is 30 years old. I would put Michael Payne at 29 or 30 years old. I would say 30, the Charlottesville City Councilor. Michael Payne's primary source of income is the $18,000 a year he makes serving on Charlottesville City Council. That is his primary source of income, the $18K he makes per year as a counselor in Charlottesville, Virginia. Michael Payne understands the winds of politics and how they can change. And the winds of politics in Charlottesville may be changing, and they may not be blowing in his direction on council anymore. As a result, you consider other ways to stay civically engaged and push a political career forward, and I would not be surprised if that includes a push for the House of Delegates. Did you find Michael Payne's age? I'm thinking he's 30 years old.
He's 30.
Can you, in the mic, so folks can hear? And a two-shot so they can see you, so you're not the voice of God?
He's 30.
30 years old?
Yep.
All right, so he's right, 30 years old. What do you make of this? I know the politics isn't your cup of tea locally, but you've had, through this talk show, an opportunity to meet Sally Hudson, through this talk show, an opportunity to meet Dave Norris and Michael Payne. What do you make of these political dominoes?
I mean, it certainly seems on point for Sally to step further into the game, and I wouldn't be surprised if Dave Norris went after her seat. I honestly don't know about Michael Payne. I don't know what his ambitions are. I don't know if he's already making plans to step into the space that Sally will leave if she gets the seat. I wouldn't be surprised if he threw his hat in the ring.
Paul McCarter, the king of the South Side, says, I thought Democrats were against big money donors. Sonia Smith has funded many a Democrat and many a local and statewide election. I'll do a quick Google search on Sonia Smith. When you do that quick Google search, check out the Virginia Public Access Project VPAP. And when you do, you will see contributions she has made. They are substantial. Substantial contributions. You can search by year. In fact, why don't I search from 2000 to 2022 on VPAP for Sonia Smith? Sonia Smith gave $650,000 to Tom Perriello, $500,000 Jennifer Carroll Foy, $391,000 Pamela Montgomery, $238,000 to Nadarius Clark, $175,000 to Kate Sponsler, $166,800 to Kim, and I'm going to mess up your last name, Kim, Melanik. She's contributed $162,914 to Sally Hudson already. I'll say that again. $162,914 to Sally Hudson already. $155,000 Sonia Smith has contributed to the Virginia for Everyone PAC. $125,000 to Deborah Gardner for delegate. She gave Jim Hinchley, the Almore Commonwealth's attorney, who's a friend of this talk show and I think might be listening now, $114,000 She contributed $100,000 to Jay Jones for Attorney General, $100,000 to Alexis Rogers in a Richmond, Virginia mayor race. She's given $85,000 in the past to Creigh deeds. All public record. Amy Lawfer has gotten $60,000 from Sonia Smith. $52,700 Sonia Smith contributed to the Democratic Party of Albemarle County. I mean, the amount of contributions she's given in Virginia elections is you know what the grand total of Sonia Smith contributions are? Across all, from 2000 to 2022, this is public record. This is on vpap.org. vpap.org. Do you have an idea? Just guess, Judah. Two shot. Do you have an idea of Sonia Smith's political contributions from 2000 to 2022? We're talking 22 years. How much she's given to political candidates in totality?
No idea whatsoever. $35 million?
Not quite that much. She's given $5,944,620. I'll give that number to you again. $5,944,620 in 22 years. You divide $5,944,620 by 22 years, and she averages $270,210 in contributions per year over the last 22 years. That's just from 2000 to 2022. 2000 to 2022. Let's say if I go to 97 to 2022, the furthest back you can go is 1997. From 1997 to 2022, same number, basically $6 million. The highest contribution, a $650,000 contribution to Tommy Perriello.
Man, it's big money.
Sonia Smith influences Virginia politics, Democrats and their candidacies and their campaigns like no other person, very few other people. Very few other people. I'm going to throw another couple names out there. Michael Bills is a multi-million-dollar investor that also influences politics in Virginia quite a bit as well. Michael Bills. I'm going to throw another couple names out there. I'm curious to see what they do. Kathy Galvin has come on this show numerous times. I'm curious if Kathy Galvin is at all interested in running for Sally Hudson's soon-to-be vacant House of Delegates spot. Sally Hudson already tried to run for this seat. Excuse me, Kathy Galvin. Kathy Galvin already tried to run for the seat. Kathy Galvin. I'm curious if Kathy Galvin runs or thinks or is thinking about running for this seat. Multi-term city councilor and architect. She rides her bike everywhere, including riding her bicycle to this studio to be on this talk show.
Based on the last time she was on here, I'd guess that she's probably done.
You think she's no chance, Kathy Galvin?
I mean, I could be completely wrong, but it sounded like she'd kind of had enough of that side of things.
Let's see. I'll throw another name out there. Dr. Wes Bellamy. Is Dr. Wes Bellamy at all considering a run for the soon-to-open Sally Hudson seat? We know Dave Norris is. I would not be surprised if Michael Payne is. I am not as confident of the other names that I just mentioned. These are the political dominoes that fall when one person makes a push political verticality, and then others respond accordingly. Let's go to comments. Anonymous is watching the show, the I Love CVille Network's version of Deep Throat. Anonymous just drops fantastic knowledge. Anonymous has sent us 3 comments. Anonymous says this, Jerry, who is going to run for city council? As much as Payne comes from a different ideological quadrant than I do, I respect that he is the one guy on council who is both smart and willing to listen and learn. The rest of council is very unimpressive to me. Lack of domain knowledge, lack of ability to interact with data, low quality of discussion. I understand that is not a great job, but there's a lot of talent in this city. Watching the council Zoom sessions should not feel like tuning into the Muppet Show as much as it does. This is Anonymous. It's calling the city council Zoom sessions the Muppet Show. Anonymous continues with one last comment. I think the fact that it is a bad job actually causes problems for democratic responsiveness. If council members defy the popular will, what recourse do we have? Threaten to vote them out of office? They'd probably say, do me a favor, vote me out of office. That's the I Love CVille Network's version of Deep Throat, a man I have met who is as in tune with local politics and current events as just about anyone watching this talk show. All right, let's talk about, are we on a 2-shot? Let's talk about, is this job a good job? Is serving on city council or the board of supervisors of Albemarle County a good job? Let's state the obvious, okay? Here are the obvious things, right?
It's a calling.
Here are the obvious things. When you're on Charlottesville City Council, you're making $18,000 a year or $20,000 a year if you're the mayor. $18K a year if you're not the mayor, $20K a year if you're the mayor. When you're on the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors, you're making even less than that. You're working routinely 30 to 40 hours a week. Are you tired?
Always yawning.
Yeah, I don't understand that. You're working routinely 30 to 40 hours a week.
Yep.
You're basically working below minimum wage. You are working below minimum wage. You're working below minimum wage. Minimum wage, what is now? $15 an hour? It's not quite 15. Minimum wage at the University of Virginia is like $15 an hour. Minimum wage at most other jobs is what? What is the Virginia minimum wage? Virginia minimum wage. What is it? Can you find out what the minimum wage is in Virginia?
Let's see.
The new minimum wage in Virginia increases to $12 an hour in 2023. $12 an hour in 2023 is the new minimum wage. So $12, right, times 40 hours a week is $480 a week. $480 a week times 52 weeks is $24,960. City Council and Albemarle County Board of Supervisors are making thousands of dollars less than minimum wage.
Yeah.
Thousands of dollars less than minimum wage. Minimum wage, if you work 40 hours a week times 52 weeks, is take-home pay $24,960 gross. Thousands of dollars less a week. That's one obvious reason why a lot of folks would say this is not a great job.
Yeah.
Another obvious reason why folks would say this is not a great job is you become extremely unpopular. Half the community is going to dislike you. The other half is going to be ambivalent or not care about you, apathetic.
Sure.
You're going to be working...
Why half?
That's generally how it is.
Yeah.
You're going to be working, you're going to have schedule flexibility. If you have a 9-to-5 job with your employer and your employer makes you go into work, you probably can't run for city council or the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors because meetings happen during the middle of the workday where you cannot be working and you have to instead be doing other things.
Yep.
If your job at all is associated with having a personal brand that you need to utilize for sales your personal brand that you need to utilize for sales purposes is going to suffer. So your business may suffer, likely. Is it a good job? And because of these circumstances, does it limit the pool of candidates to a pool that we can legitimately, who are qualified or competent or capable of winning or serving, that we can count on one, maybe two hands? Yeah. The answer is yes.
I don't know if all of those apply, but sure.
The answer is yes. To put it in perspective, take Albemarle County Board of Supervisors. Ann Malik. Let me call up her. She is of the Whitehall District. If memory serves correct, and you can look this up if you could for me, Judah. Ann Malik, Board of Supervisors, Albemarle County.
What am I looking at?
If she runs again, and she very well could in the Whitehall District, would that be her fourth or fifth term if she wins?
Let's see.
Carol Thorpe, help me out with this. Viewers and listeners, Whitehall District. Viewers and listeners who follow this closely. Is Ann Malik in her fourth term right now? Can you look that up for me, J-Dubs? Is she in her fourth term right now?
Let's see.
If she chooses to run in 2023, would that be her fifth term that she would be running for? You have a district that has, these are 4-year terms. You have a district that has been so cornered by one person that she legitimately, depending on you confirming this for me, can someone confirm this for me? Is it her fourth or fifth term? Carol, Neil, Paul, Warrior AG, Kevin Higgins, Braun, Anonymous? Do you have that answer, J-Dubs?
Let's see. Looks like she had her first term in 2008.
Do you have that?
I'm looking for the number of terms. Let's see.
Ann Malik is a farmer and educator representing the Whitehall District of Albemarle County. She served 4 years as chair from 2010 to 2013. She ran uncontested in the 2015 election to keep her seat. She once again served in 2018. Malik won her fourth term in 2019. If she's in the middle, I just found it. She's in the middle of her fourth term right now. If she chooses to run again next year, it will be her fifth term. These are 4-year terms. When this term is over, that means Ann Malik has represented the Whitehall District for 16 years. 16 years. Same person representing one of 6 districts in one of the largest counties in Virginia. If she chooses to run again next year, that will be her fifth term. That would be 20 years of representation from one person in one of 6 districts in one of the largest counties in the Commonwealth of Virginia. That is a microcosm. And I'm not throwing shade on Supervisor Malik by any means. Supervisor Malik, you watch this program, I know you do. I am not throwing shade at you here. But it's a microcosm that the candidates who choose to run for these positions, you can generally count on one hand because of the degree of difficulty, the unpopularity, and the lack of pay, and the scheduling difficulty associated with this civic engagement.
Yeah, I think you'd have to have money already to run.
Michael Payne, not necessarily. Michael Payne doesn't have money.
Yeah. That's fair, but
You have to have, number one, schedule flexibility. That's the number one aspect of running here. Having money, like you said, certainly helps.
Yeah.
Unless you're living in a, very tiny place like Councilor Payne is doing.
Unless you're young and sharing a place with someone else.
Really not spending a lot of money like Councilor Payne is doing.
You can't.
He can't.
Because you don't get any.
His number one source of income is Charlottesville City Council, the 18K. No. We got a viewer and listener, sorry. No. Got a viewer and listener trying to walk into the studio here. Neil Williamson asked this question: how has Whitehall changed in 16 years? You know why he asked that question?
Because you know the answer?
No. That's not why. He's asking that question because Ann Malik has been on for 4 terms. So he's alluding through that question that the district hasn't changed in her 4 terms, and that's how she's been able to corner this office for so long. That's what his question alludes to. My response to Neil Williamson, the president of the Free Enterprise Forum, is the Whitehall district is starting to get younger. It's starting to get a bit younger. Warrior AG, I'll get to your comment. Albert Graves II, I'll get to your comment here. He's Warrior AG. The Whitehall district is starting to get a bit younger. And we saw in the last race, when friend of the program, who's also come on this program many times, Steve Harvey, narrowed the voting gap with Ann Malik, closer than many folks anticipated. He still lost, Steve Harvey did. Steve Harvey now running for school board in the Whitehall district. Still lost, but that voting margin was much narrower than a lot of people anticipated, especially since Steve Harvey is not a legacy name like Malik Huckabee, her maiden name. She's undoubtedly a legacy brand in Albemarle County. So we've relayed a lot to you. And we still got 515 Rougemont Avenue to show you guys. A home in Belmont that's listed at $299,900 that may be a tear down. You're going to show the photos. The home is being sold as is. In conclusion, the political dominoes are starting to fall. And go back on a one shot if we could. And here's how the political dominoes are falling. Sally Hudson is going after Creigh deeds. The reason Sally Hudson is going after Creigh deeds is because the recently redrawn district basically is indicating that Creigh, an institution, may be a bit more vulnerable than he has been in years past. And as a result of that vulnerability, Sally Hudson sees some opportunity. And I would bet you her campaign is financed by Sonia Smith to the tune of over $200,000 plus. Time will tell. Sonia Smith has already donated roughly, what was the number I mentioned to you guys? Like 160-some thousand to Sally Hudson. As Sally pursues Creigh Deeds' state senator spot, Sally's current seat in the House of Delegates becomes vacant, and the political domino suggests Dave Norris, and he confirmed with me that he's significantly thinking about this seat, will make potentially a push for this. And I'm very curious to see if Michael Payne, who has aspirations of building a political career, also makes a push for this. There is very little for Michael Payne to gain making another run on Charlottesville City Council where he will stay for 4 years if elected for a second time. Very little for him to gain from there. Very little to gain politically, very little to gain professionally, and certainly very little to gain financially. However, if Michael Payne was to go from Charlottesville City Councilor to House of Delegates in Richmond, that is a professional vertical move. You gain political equity, you make new connections, you increase your network, and you expand your resume and make it more robust. After being on the House of Delegates, he could make a push for senator, for Congress, whatever it may be. There is next to nothing Michael Payne can gain for serving on Charlottesville City Council for another 4 years. You're talking 4 more years of living destitute and potentially risking the equity you've already created and built in your first term. I'm curious to see if Kathy Galvin, Dr. Wes Bellamy, and Kristen Zakos consider the House of Delegates spot that opens when Sally goes after Creigh Dietz. I will get to comments from Carol Thorpe, Kevin Higgins, and many of the viewers and listeners here in a matter of moments. I want to show, okay, let's talk the, let's talk the 515 Rougemont, how do I say it? Rougemont. This house just went on the market. 515 Rougemont. Show the photos. You showing the photos?
Yep.
Thank you. Look at the screen. Look at the screen. Look at the screen. Look at the screen. Judah is showing the photos from the listing. I'm not throwing shade on this listing. I'm just calling it how I see it. This home went on the market, Judah, less than 48 hours ago. This is how the home is described. Great opportunity in Belmont for a unique rancher on a basement that would be ideal for a homeowner or investor. Perfect for future Airbnb. Home is being sold as is. As is. Are you showing the photos?
Yep.
What immediately jumps out to you about this house, besides the $299,900 asking price?
It needs all the work.
Would you say is borderline what's the word? Uninhabitable right now? You can't live in this right now.
Uninhabitable.
Wouldn't you say that?
It's pretty damn close.
This is $300,000 in Belmont. You cannot live in. Could you live in this house right now? Look at the screen. Are you flipping through the photos?
It's possible, but highly improbable.
Right. And are you flipping through all of them?
I am flipping through them.
You got a house that very well could be a teardown here, that has an asking price of $300,000. Now, the location is dope. The location is fantastic. See if you can put a Google map on of where this is located. I know that's me adapting on the fly here, throwing something to you on the fly. I'll try to spotlight where this is located. It's right behind Jordan Park. It's right next to Mountain View Trailer Park. Mountain View Mobile Home Park, excuse me. Right next to Mountain View Mobile Home Park. It is right off 6th Street and Payne Avenue. Kind of right off Hartman's Mill Road. To say this is Belmont is a stretch. This is more toward Avon Extended. Would you characterize this as Belmont? I know this is being marketed as Belmont. This is past the B&R Market. I would say this is kind of more toward Avon Extended in the middle of Avon. Tell me if you can get that map up, if you could, J-Dubs. I understand I'm asking you to do this on the fly, and I'm very grateful for you adapting on the fly here. I should have probably asked you before the show to get the map up. I think the location of the house is very important. I would say this is not really Belmont.
It's not. Map is up.
The map is on screen? Bravo.
Yeah.
Job well done, Judah Wickower. Thank you, Judah.
Let's see.
Look at the screen. He's got the Google map on screen.
Oh, yeah.
That's not Belmont.
No, it's definitely not. It's across Avon from Belmont.
It's being marketed as Belmont. We know why that is. Great opportunity in Belmont for unique rancher. They're trying to utilize the Tony neighborhood that is Belmont to brand and market this property.
Yeah.
You got a home that is not in Belmont. And I'm not throwing shade, guys. I'm just calling it how I see it. You got a home that's being branded as Belmont that's not in Belmont that Judah and I would both say, would you live in this as is?
No, nobody would.
Would you call this a teardown?
I mean, you'd really have to go in and take a look at everything. I wouldn't put it past it, but it definitely needs work, a lot of work.
I mean, is this a teardown? Are they just selling the lot here?
I mean, you could definitely do something with the basement.
The home is currently 1,010 square feet.
It's 4 bedrooms.
You want to know what's crazy? While this home has been on the market for less than 48 hours, less than 1 day on Zillow, it already has 852 views and 21 saves. What do you think of when you, and we're not throwing shade here. I think this home is going to sell. The listing agent is Joaquin Wynn of First Dominion Realty. This was updated not that long ago. You think this is going to sell? I think this is going to sell.
I think somebody that wants to flip it is going to buy it. I don't know that looking at the street view, I can't see anyone paying $300,000 to thinking that this is a great deal that they're going to fix up and live in themselves.
This is screaming investor.
Yeah.
Screaming investor, right?
Oh yeah.
Screaming investor and probably a teardown.
Would it really be worth it to tear it down?
Would it be really worth it to save this? Oftentimes, tearing down and starting over offers much more financial potential than taking existing construction
I understand.
and rehabilitating it as is.
But in that case, you're basically spending $300,000 for the land, which
For the
is
dirt.
quite a lot for this side of Avon.
Or is that the world we live in Charlottesville, Virginia right now? And is that a microcosm of so many other things in this community? And speaking of real estate, I was thinking quite a bit of what Neil Williamson shared yesterday with us. He's the president of the Free Enterprise Forum. I encourage everyone to check out freeenterpriseforum.com. Neil's a good guy, friend of the program. He's got an article in his lead slot right now. Oh, it's its second item. Ooh, Neil, you posted a new article talking Turkey. 2023 candidate decision time. I haven't read this one. Neil Williamson. I will check this out. Oh, it's talking about Board of Supervisors in Albemarle and it's all the stuff that I like. I'll read this one, Neil Williamson. It's in the second slot. It's called Fixed Delays to Promote Economic Vitality. And it's highlighting the inefficiencies associated with Charlottesville City and Albemarle County. And here's one of the most concerning aspects of what he is highlighting. Albemarle County, simple building permits are taking 90 days. 90 days for a simple building permit. Charlottesville site plan reviews regularly require multiple submissions, each taking 3 weeks, and often include 100+ new comments per iteration. He compares it and contrasts it to Richmond, Virginia. And in Richmond, they've got it down to single-digit days because they're outsourcing much of the approval process to third parties to make things expedited. And here's what I was thinking about. And part of what I was thinking about was a comment that Anonymous made on the show. I'll read the comment that Anonymous made on the show in response to Neil Williamson. He says, Anonymous says, Neil's point raises an interesting related point. There is an intense focus on zoning, but zoning is only one piece of land use regulatory restrictiveness. It does not matter what zoning is if there are no building inspectors. Our zoning is actually pretty permissive. The inspection process, not so much. So both guys make great points, and these are the points both Anonymous, the I Love CVille Network's version of Deep Throat, and Neil Williamson, the president of the Free Enterprise Forum, are making. You can have the most welcoming and inclusive zoning possible, but if you have so much red tape that permits are drowning in bureaucratic quicksand, what is the point of having inclusive and welcoming zoning if you can't get approval to do anything with said zoning? Are we putting the cart before the horse by doing zoning, as opposed to getting the permitting process buttoned up like Richmond, Virginia has done? And Richmond, Virginia has utilized the power and the efficiencies and the speed of the free market, the invisible hand of capitalism, third parties, to expedite zoning, to expedite permitting approvals. Why isn't Charlottesville City and Albemarle County considering similar solutions? We know 2023 is going to be a recession, and economic vitality may be dampened by macro headwinds associated with labor shortages, inflation, political landmines, increased cost of goods, fuel costs. If we know we have these headwinds, these economic headwinds in front of us, why would we not try to figure out efficiencies to help combat those headwinds? And aren't efficiencies what the free market, the invisible hand, and capitalism embody? You figure out efficiencies or you don't survive. It's Darwinism. Oh, had me thinking. Appreciate both you guys. All right, let me get to some comments. Can you find out how much a Virginia delegate makes? Oh, I got it. The annual salary for delegates in Virginia is $17,640. So Neil Williamson highlights the cost of Virginia delegate, and the reason he says that is in relation to Michael Payne. Michael Payne's making 18 G's, Charlottesville City Council.
You'd make less as a delegate?
But you work a lot less. You're in session as a delegate considerably less. The regular session of the General Assembly is 60 days long during even-numbered years and 30 days long during odd-numbered years, unless extended by a two-thirds vote of both houses. So Michael Payne, if he becomes or if he runs for delegate, could have another job.
Yeah.
City Council is way more time-consuming than these shorter sessions for Virginia delegate. So the pay is the same, yet the work from an hour standpoint is a fraction of what City Council does. That's important to emphasize there, friend of the program, Neil Williamson. Let's get to some comments by Carol Thorpe. Carol Thorpe. She says, historically, elected offices are considered civic job duties, meaning they are not intended to provide a primary source of income. In fact, providing a large salary would likely entice more people running to be career politicians. In local politics, funds allocated have been intended to offset expenses as much as anything, not so much to be a salary. There's a lot of truth to that. She's basically saying if we're paying folks a salary, like a legitimate salary to serve on council or the board of supervisors, then you would have a lot more Ann Malicks on them because they would be career politicians fighting for these jobs and maintaining them for long periods of time. That's a very good point. Mm-hmm. Carol Thorpe also says, Dr. Wes Bellamy continues to crisscross the country trying to build his personal brand and build the Our Black Party. I would be surprised to see him tie himself down with the local office again. Carol Thorpe, she follows the politics closely. Kevin Higgins has a very sentimental comment that I like. I like this, Kevin Higgins. The Commonwealth Cup is absolutely happening. We just will not see it. It will be in the sky, and it will be the best game ever played. King of Greenwood, Kevin Higgins. Warrior AG, a.k.a. Albert L. Graves II, says he would not buy that home because of the crime area that surrounds it. And he also says, look what happened to Creigh, a slew of new people without the infrastructure to support all the new residents here. Lee Elberson, Johnny Blair, all watching the program today. We love you guys. Anything you want to add before our 1:45 conference call, J-Dubs? I also want to highlight Brad Connor, an associate broker at Montague Miller and Company Realtors, watching the program today. You good, J-Dubs?
Yep.
Thank you for getting the map on screen. Mm-hmm. Kevin Yancey says career politicians are exactly what we do not need. Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that, Carol and Kevin Yancey. A lot of truth to that. A lot of truth to what the mayor of Waynesboro and the Queen of Jack Jewett are saying. I would, however, say, and I know it's an anomaly and it's not the norm, when you're 4 terms on the Board of Supervisors and each of those terms is 4 years, that's 16 years for Ann Malik. Is she not a career politician at this point in Albemarle County? And Ned Galloway's in his second term, right? Friend of the program, Ned Galloway. That would be 8 years he will have served eventually on the Board of Supervisors. And is Diantha McKeel, what is Diantha McKeel? That's your district, Carol. Is Diantha in her second or third term? Is it her third term?
McKeel's won 4 elections.
But she also served on the school board. One of those was school board. How many on the Board of Supervisors?
That's for the
so
school
3
board.
on the school, 3 on the Board of Supervisors? Yeah. So she's in her third term. She's in her third term on the Board of Supervisors, Diantha. So you got 6 seats. You have 6 seats on the Board of Supervisors. You got Ann Malik in her 4th term. When her 4th term is up, that's 16 years. You got Diantha McKeel in her 3rd term. When her term is up, that's 12 years. Mm-hmm. You got Ned Galloway in his 2nd term. When his term is up, that's 8 years. You got Jim Andrews in his 1st term, Donna Price in her 1st term, and Bela Pistol-Kirtley in her first term. 3 of the 6 on the Board of Supervisors, multiple terms. 2 of the 6, 3 terms or more, and 1 of them 4 terms, and maybe a 5th. I would say those are career politicians. At least 3 of them. Especially since Diantha was on the school board before that, and Ned was on the school board before that. Those are career politicians already.
Yeah.
All right. That's the Tuesday edition of the I Love CVille Show. Happy Thanksgiving to all. Judah Wickower crushed it. My name is Jerry Miller. We hope you enjoy this program as much as we do hosting, producing, and delivering it to you. Be thankful for what you have. Thankful for what you have. Thank you kindly for joining us so long. You can kill him in the show. We got John.